Hello, welcome to All the Way Down at 36. I'm Dash. I'm here with Knox,
I'm Knox.
and it's been a week or two. It's been a minute. Last time I think I talked about Alundra last time, and you had a indie game you wanted to talk about, and I also have an indie game to talk about today instead of a retro one. But on the way there, how you do? How you been? Couple weeks.
Oh, I'm okay. Just looking for a new job because shit's not paying. Um, Looking and trying to get the hell out of my house. So we're trying to look around for a new house as well in this crazy market. So other than that, just honestly, I haven't been playing too many other games outside of my normal stuff. I just kind of been hanging around trying to get better in Street Fighter and Sea of Thieves, which are just two super competitive games. I mistakenly think are chill.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got quite a bit going on as far as different games and stuff I've been playing or trying out a little bit. But as usual, like I kind of failed to do in previous episodes, I'm only gonna talk about the ones where like I finished it, instead of giving you guys like a half C kind of talk about it and then having to take a second, like if I'm going to talk about it after it's done, then that takes a whole second time, and I'm going to avoid that. But yeah, things have been a little hectic around here as well. My parents have been having this internet issue, so they thought that they would buy a new modem. uh
Oh yeah.
But, because instead of renting one, from the ISP, they bought their own modem, but I guess they got a refurbished one.
Yeah.
So my mom thought, maybe it's the refurbished thing because it's refurbished, so maybe it's just bad. But we went and got a new one, and kind of a weird thing happened. We plugged it in. I called the ISP and I told them this is the MAC address of the new one because that's what they need to know. And it didn't work. It didn't come up. So I do still think that they're having issues with their ISP, but just in case, I attempted to log into the router to like see if I could see an issue from the route. It's a modem router combo, right? So I tried to log into it locally, this brand new router, to see if I could see like an issue on its side. But while we were out for the modem router, my dad, weirdly enough, I don't know, it's kind of funny. We went to Micro Center to get the modem router,
Oh, you lucky
and
bastard.
well, he saw one of those computers that's all light up on the inside with like the RGB lights and the fancy
The
like
fancy new bells and whistles
yeah, like
and
the
doodads.
cables were lighting up, and it had the viewing window on the side where you could see everything all fancy looking. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like fascinated by it. And for some reason, he wanted one. Like we could, okay, I should say that my parents were thinking about getting a new computer anyway, because the one that they've been using, I built for them like 12 years ago or something, right? So
Nice.
like it has like 2 gigs of RAM, it's old. Actually, I wonder if it has.
Two
Now that I
gigs
think
is
about it,
rough, man.
I
That's
w
rough.
yeah, I'm starting to think it might have more than that, but
What
maybe
OS does
one
it
of the,
have?
Windows 7.
It's got to have at least
Um,
four. I think it needs at
that
least four.
what I was gonna say is I wonder if one of the, RAM slots has gone bad or something, and the reason I say that is because they had some heat issues. This computer was locked inside a cabinet, for a while because they have a nice looking cabinet, so they just put it on the inside of it. Oh boy, so one day they told me that this computer didn't work anymore. Like they pressed the power button, it doesn't turn on anymore. So I came over to look at it. This is a few years ago now. I went over to look at it, and yeah, sure enough, it doesn't turn on. But the fans, when you hit the power button, the fans twitched, right? They would do a single little twitch, but nothing else would happen. So I opened it
Oh.
up, and the graphics card had melted inside of the thing. Like, you know how graphics cards sit where the PCB is on top, and then all the like the heat sink and everything is kind of on the bottom, and the fans are facing down? The fan was like drooping out of the
Oh.
whole thing because it was melting apart. from how hot it was getting in there. So I just took the graphics card out and threw it away, and then and at that point the PC booted again, because it was short, right? The graphics card was causing a short, and it wasn't booting anymore because of that. So I took it out. The
Was
thing
it an
booted back
ATI
up.
card?
The graphics card, I think
Yeah.
it was Nvidia. I think it was
Really?
a really old GeForce, like something really cheap.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly though, but I don't remember what brand it was or anything like that, but it was old and cheap. Like by the standards of when I built the thing 12 years ago, it was old then, like an
Yeah.
oldie cheapo already. So, I just took it out, and then, when the thing booted, it was like, okay, they can watch YouTube again, so that's all that really matters for them. Uh so that was that for a while. But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how much RAM the thing, like if one of the slots had also gone bad and so it was running on half capacity RAM or something like
Like
that.
I don't think Windows 10 or 7 will even boot without 4 gigs. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is I was looking at the performance manager, and when it was running, when 600 megs of RAM was being used, the graph was like halfway, or so, right?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, your usable RAM is different than your total capacity. So,
that's true. Actually, that's a really good point. Yeah. So, right, it might not be accounting for yeah, what's just already taken up by the OS and whatnot.
it's funny
But
that you
yeah,
mentioned
anyway.
that though. You're saying you're thinking about getting a new modem instead of renting. So I've wanted to do that forever now because I hate the idea of renting something I know I'm going to have for a long term. Um, and I recently got fiber with Verizon down here in Virginia. Well, I've had fiber, okay, but I recently got gigabit fiber. Nice enough that I didn't have to upgrade my equipment. It was just a fucking flip. They could like a little switch they could have flipped, and it's fine. But no, I got it, and all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute, how much money can I like save some money on my bill by not renting the thing that's already in my house that you're just flipping a switch on? And they're like, no, it's actually the promotion and blah blah blah. It's including in the price and yada yada. And I don't know, man. I think if I come back with an actual modem, or not a modem, but like just a general router to replace it with, like because I've actually been taking a recent super interested in networking gear and shit, and I've been looking at like small business like enterprise shit that people just put in their house as an enthusiast level thing to make servers, virtual machines and whatnot. And to get 10 gigabit ethernet in the house, you wouldn't have 10 gigabit ethernet internet in outside, but like between machines in your house to transfer shit super fast. That's what I want to do. But I've been getting into that, and I've been thinking like, what is it all just like? I mean, I'm sure once a company is so big like Verizon or Comcast, the numbers are so small on a per individual basis that like it's not even right to ask. I wonder if I bring my modem and call them, can I just be like, hey, if I talk to the right salesman and tell them the right thing, will he just give me a discount just to get me to go away, or is this
Mm.
something that's actually contractually obligated to be charged to me? I don't know. I have no clue, but yeah, man, I've been thinking about all this shit, just getting 10 gig in the house, and it's like, oh my god, I'm now like, I'm getting my CCNA on accident right now, just like
Yeah.
as an like it's interesting shit.
So I went on a little bit of a journey as far as the modem conversation goes, where many, some years ago, I thought, yeah, I don't want to rent the modem from Comcast I had at the time, and so I bought my own router modem combo, and it was nice because it was like 150 bucks or something for the thing, and then that saved me like $12 a month, right? Which slightly over, or after 1 year, right, that pays for itself. And then I'm just spending 12 bucks a month less. So that was great. But then I don't remember exactly what
I
happened.
guess they give you a
I
discount. That's good.
Well, yeah, with Comcast, I was able to give them their modem back and not rent one and use my own, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like $150 to buy my own. I was no longer renting one, which meant that, you know, it was a down payment of $150 to buy this modem. But then the logic is I'm saving the rental fee, which after a year covers the cost of the modem in the first place, right? So then after that, that's just a rental fee that I'm no longer paying, um, you know, when this thing is already paid for. So then though I moved and changed service, it was still with Comcast, but for some reason it was like the new service didn't work with the old router. I think it was like a better service or something, and so I would have had to get a new modem for it to work with this new service.
Yeah, it
Uh
might have just literally been for like 100 megabit, you know?
Right, and so I looked, I was like, "Okay, well, this modem already more than paid for itself in the time that I used it, so why don't I just go look for a new modem, do the same thing, right? Buy my own again." But the ones that covered the new service I had were gonna be like $350 or something. Like the price for the modem was outrageous, and it was like, "Fuck it, I
What were you
guess I'll
looking
just."
at, per
I I
chance?
I don't exactly remember because this isn't the end of the story, right?
Okay.
So for a while we just rented the modem. We were like, whatever, it's fine. But then so now we're on fiber though because a local ISP uh installed in all of the we live in a townhome, you know, like a rented townhome,
Okay.
and I guess the townhome association made a deal with this ISP or something where they came and they installed fiber in all the townhomes in the neighborhood.
Nice.
And so that is great because we don't even need a modem with them. We don't rent shit from them. They came in and they put a box in our house, which we don't pay for, right? It's just a box that's in our house now. It's on the wall, you know. It's not a pane, right? It's like an outlet basically.
Yeah.
But all we had to buy to get service with them is just a router. We don't need a modem anymore because it's Ethernet straight into the house. So, you know, we just take a router and we plug Ethernet from the router into the wall, and that's where the service comes from. Ethernet all the way. There's no radio signal or coax shit coming in. So it's way cheaper because we only need a router. Even if we need to upgrade the router, upgrading a router is so much simpler than upgrading a modem, you know? We're not renting anything. And the service is way better because it's just Ethernet all the way down, you know? It's just like
Upgrading a router is so much easier than upgrading a modem. How so?
yeah. Oh, no, it's because it's cheaper. Routers are just cheaper than modems, I
Oh,
think. I don't know,
well,
from what I've been looking at.
yes. I mean, it kind of just
Well, it
depends.
depends.
Yeah.
Right. It depends on what you're doing with it, you know. I'm not looking to go more than gigabit around the house, you know.
Mm.
But we have gigabit switches also is the
Yeah.
thing though. Like I've got a gigabit switch upstairs and one downstairs.
Most switches are
Um
gigabit. Like if it says 1
yeah.
slash 100 slash 1000, it'll pass through the fastest your internet speed will pass through anyway.
Right, like our internet speed that we get from our ISP is a gigabit, right? And so then the switches that I have are
Yeah.
gigabit as well. So
No, that.
nothing's bottlenecked anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
If I wanted yeah.
Oh, actually, continue. Go on. Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so if I want to transfer files between my PCs at home, yeah, it could be faster
Yeah.
if I got nicer switches and a nicer router, but a gigabit's fine for me.
And
For now at least.
the only reason I'm looking into it, and that's what I was gonna say. I didn't want to cut you off there, but the reason I'm looking into it is because I have potentially started getting into the idea of editing video off of a NAS.
I see,
So
yeah.
that's a lot of bandwidth I need, like a
Mhm.
lot, especially like for anything more than 1080p video. It's it's a lot of data that you can't just do in real time, not without significant like compression issues.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about doing that, but also just to even like have communication in a central like rack location for like a Pi-hole server. I'm thinking about setting up with a Raspberry Pi to just block ads at the DNS level. And then I'm thinking about like just running like if I can find like a 2 or a 4U, oh god, a 4U rack machine would be awesome, like a server. I would love to just play around with it a little bit, do a little bit of virtualization play. And this is what I was getting into. I was thinking about like seeing how bare bones a server you could still run a hefty, say like maybe like up to 10 players connected to a Valheim server. Like I wonder how heavy Valheim would be on 5-7-year-old enterprise server equipment. I don't think it would be that bad. I think you could totally run it and be totally feasible.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. Like if it's dedicated to that, I'd be surprised if it had any issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm talking out of my ass about that. I don't really know.
Yeah, me too. I just want to play with.
One thing that you mentioned there is blocking ads at the DNS level. That's something that I'm always kind of worried about because the reason I haven't looked into that kind of thing is because I worry that like the website or whatever you're using is kind of waiting for confirmation from that the ad went through.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, it depends on the level of sophistication. What I want to avoid is having to wait for the DNS to time out. You know what I mean? Like,
have you had many websites do that? Where it literally would not load the fucking website without the ad?
I don't use any kind of ad blocker or anything whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just something I've always been like, that sounds complicated, and it's just gonna cause problems down the line. Has always been my assumption.
So I'm curious about it because I have zero issues blocking ads right now. But the way I block ads right now is at the browser level. I use the Brave browser, which is a kind of it's a fork project off of Chromium, which is what Google Chrome is based off of. It's pretty damn good browser, actually, Chromium. I like it a lot. But, I also kind of want to de-Googleify myself a little bit anyway. But, it's nice. It's super privacy focused. It blocks every single ad it can. It blocks all the trackers. It shows you, like, a number count on the icon of the browser. Like it highlights up orange, which is the color of the little lion icon for the browser, highlights up the little number, like a little notification icon that you can click, and it shows you every little tracking cookie and ad that it blocked on every page that you load. It's awesome. It blocked everything except for Netflix ads at the time when I still watched Netflix, like 2 years ago. It could be different now. But the way that the Pi-hole works, as far as I understand it, and this was one of my concerns, was the fact that it runs off a Raspberry Pi. And you can even do this off of the Pi Zero, which, like, you could mistake that thing for a flash drive, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so bare bones, teeny tiny little computer, but you can run this thing called Pi-hole off of it, which is, instead of like, okay, so think of a website loading, instead of an ad loading and then the website not loading because of it. Think of it more as like there's a set of like placeholder banner ads, let's call them, if we think in a very like Web 2.0 kind of way. It's if we think of like actually Web 1.0, really, if you think about it, but classic little defined spaces on a website that the people who wrote the website went, this is going to be an ad no matter what, so it has to be this blank space for our ad team, our digital marketing team, to just throw up in that exact pixel count, yada, yada. It'll always be there. So imagine you're on a website like that. It'll load just fine because the website is not looking for confirmation, in most cases anyway, I would say. Not looking for confirmation that you got an ad. It's looking for confirmation that you just loaded, if it is at all, that you just loaded the web page, and then that's when I would assume stops sending you data, because what else would there be to download? It does also, like, it's more on when you reach out to your ISP to get that address for you. Your ISP, as well as like a whole bunch of third-party shit going on, technical mumbo-jumbo that I'm too stupid to explain, will essentially come back with your request. And of course, websites will have, places programmed in to put ads, but that's where those requests will come through, forwarded to their, to you from that website in the return request. This essentially just goes, okay, so we're going to filter all the traffic through this pie hole. And if any of the domains passing through me right now match this blacklist, we are going to send them in what's called a DNS. I think it's like a DNS loop, or it's why it's called a pie hole. It's like a DNS sinkhole, I think is what they call it. So essentially,
I've heard the term black hole in
it's not that though.
In routing, at least, like in routing, if you create like a routing loop,
like a feedback loop. That's I guess the opposite of a feedback loop.
So any traffic that goes into it gets black holed essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of basically like that, I would think, because essentially it goes, you're on our blacklist, therefore we are just going to keep forwarding the request and forwarding.
Yeah,
so
and that
it just never loads for
what you're describing sounds like it would work perfectly well for banner ads. Yeah, specifically where I worry about it is something like, let's say you're listening to Spotify, right?
Yeah.
And it's time where Spotify has to play an ad before it will continue, right?
Yeah.
Is that am I gonna have to wait for a timeout,
so
while it sits there looking for an ad?
So basically, it's like I said, it's DNS dependent. So basically, I think it's going to be a little bit different in how an application will work, because an application is a hard piece of code where a developer goes, well, this is the version that we're going to have for free, therefore it's going to have ads in it. So when you say want to listen to Spotify, it will my guess is it will probably block the ad. However, Spotify sounds like a special kind of case where they kind of just do deals with their sponsorship and they're played over voice clips. And I'm not sure if the voice clips specifically get blocked or if it's Spotify itself serving them to you via how the ad works.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But also, like, I've heard of people on Twitch have an issue where you get like a purple screen that says like, turn off your ad blocker, please. And I don't know what you have to do to get past it.
I would imagine you would still get that on Twitch.
Yeah.
My
guess.
Yeah.
Right. And part of the reason that I haven't done like any ad blocking stuff whatsoever, ever really, is just because I pretty much only use YouTube and Twitch, and I just pay for YouTube Premium and Twitch Turbo.
And that's kind of like why I'm kind of taking so much interest in the Raspberry, like the Pi hole project, is because I found out just how darn easy it is. Like, it's literally, you load the Raspberry Pi operating system up, you load Pi-hole on it, you plug it. Okay, I haven't done it yet, but I'm oversimplifying. But as far as I understand it, you just plug it into your network, and it sees it as a computer on the network, and basically you just go to your, like, you can do this on a per computer basis if you want to. Like, if you don't want everybody else to be blocked from ads, so on and so forth, you can just go into Windows and say, hey, point my DNS to this IP address, and the IP address will be the static IP address of your Raspberry Pi. Or you can just go straight to your router, and in your router settings, just say, hey, literally every request that comes through is going to go to this DNS IP address first, and then everything on the network has it.
Yeah, because you would make it your DNS server, and then or I said DNS server, the S stands for server, but
ATM machine.
You make it your DNS, and then it forwards the actual DNS requests to the one that should be I mean the Pi hole then forwards the actual DNS requests that it likes to what you would normally have
to your ISP.
Yeah,
essentially, I think in my incredibly uneducated, inexperienced, opinion so far, that's what it sounds like. And I'm going to play around with it. There's a huge shortage on everything electronics right now, as everyone knows. This is my first time in the 10 years of the Raspberry Pi's existence that I've ever taken an interest in the project. So I'm just now getting into it, and I'm seeing that it has definitely suffered from the shortages as well. if you can find a Raspberry Pi 4, I think they're selling for like over $100 on average, but you can buy them at MSRP for like, what is it, 45? No, it's like $65. The Pi Zeros are like $15. They're so dirt cheap, but like they're selling for a lot right now. So I have a hookup on Twitter. One of my buddies on Twitter said he's not using a Raspberry Pi 3. I think it's a Raspberry Pi 3 Plus. I don't really care because it has an Ethernet port on it, and I don't. It's just another thing I don't have to adapt. So once I get that in from him, I'll go ahead and play around with it and report back. But yeah, anyway, I know this all isn't super game related, but it's a bunch of stuff I've been taking interested in network wise, because it's like this stuff is easier than I thought it was. Like if you just cut ads off at your router's level with just a couple easy steps, like I'm all about it. And I mean, also like I'm all about supporting content creators and shit. I know they need to have ads served, but that's also why I pay for YouTube Premium and Twitch Turbo, is because I just can't do ads. I'd rather support streamers with like bits and shit where they get a higher percentage, of the actual money given to Twitch, and I just pay for Twitch Turbo, so they just get my tiny percentage of my Twitch Turbo revenue every month instead of me having to deal with ads. Fuck ads.
Yeah. So way back to the story I was telling that got us into this. By the way, if you have network device questions, you can throw them at me too.
Ooh, can I?
Network engineering is what I do, or well, it's what I did for 8 years. But more of like an enterprise network engineering kind of stuff. But that kind of gets us back to where my story was that got us into this, which was, so I had to log into the new router that my parents got, right? So my parents bought this new router. It wasn't working, so I thought I'm gonna log into this thing, but it was a funny thing, just where like, so my parents had this old computer. I told the story about the GPU melted, all that, right? So they were still on that thing until a couple days ago. We went to Micro Center, and they were thinking like maybe we'll get a new one. And I thought, yeah, instead of me building this one also right now, it kind of seems easiest to just get a pre-built one. We're at Micro Center anyway. And I was showing them like, hey, this one's $500. It seems okay. More than what they need, since they pretty much only watch YouTube or do little things like that, right? But it was just funny. My dad, it just caught his eye, these RGB lit computers, and he was like, hey, he had to have one. He had to have this fancy, dumb, like, look
How
how
long
cool
ago
it
was this?
looks. This is like 2 days ago. Yeah. And so next thing we know, we're walking out with, the modem router that we wanted, or that we went there for, and this like fancy ass RGB lit pre-built computer. But here's the problem, is that, well, first the problem was that we got home and I looked at the box and I was like, fuck, this is not a modem router. I accidentally just bought a router. So I had to go back to the store to exchange it for a modem router. We got back that modem router. We hook up, call Comcast. It's not working, right? I want to log into it. Okay, we're back caught up on the story. So we hook up the new. So I was going to log into it with their old computer, but in the middle of us trying to pull all their data off their old computer onto a flash drive, just some pictures and videos and music, we just wanted to get those on a flash drive, put them in the new computer, right? But my mom unplugged the power strip during a file transfer, and then the thing didn't boot anymore. I've never seen it be that bad before, but like I figured, hey, yeah, we'll take the file transfer right where we left off after we boot it back up. No big deal. The thing doesn't boot anymore.
What OS was it?
Windows 7.
Damn.
And like, the part where like the colors would swirl in and then blow into the flag, right? And then the Windows flag would sit there for a minute while it said starting Windows, right?
Yeah.
It just got stuck on that screen. It never booted anymore. So we're like, oh shit, okay, fine. So that happened earlier. So now when I want to log into this router, we're like, okay, let's bust out the new computer. So we take the new computer out of the box, hook it up, and we're like, yeah, it's not going to have internet right away, but we're just going to use it to log into the router, and we'll get the internet. So we boot up the brand new computer. Turns out Windows 11 will not let you get to a desktop without an internet connection
Yeah.
as you're first loading it.
Yep.
I did not know that was it. So we couldn't. Oh, it's like the most frustrating first experience to have with a new OS ever, where it's like I need to use this computer to log into the router so I can fix my internet, but I can't turn on the computer because there's no internet. It's fucked. Like
This
like
is
Windows.
this is why we always carry Linux on a flash drive.
Windows 10
Yeah,
would allow you to make an account offline. You know, it wanted you to sign up online, but it didn't
did.
make you.
Yeah, I encountered that when I was doing when I was setting up the PC we're streaming from right now. This is the new stream PC. I decided Windows 11 just because A, I wanted experience with it. I didn't have it on anything, and B, for compatibility and future proofing sake too, whatever. And holy crap, setting it up immediately. First of all, I went in armed with something most people are nowhere near armed to deal with, which is TPM. Which, if you don't know what TPM is, it stands for Trusted Platform Module. It's basically Windows' like hardware level encryption, like where it would store the keys and etc. Think of it as a vault for passwords that it uses to convene with itself. TPM became a system requirement on Windows 11, which was a huge deal to me because every day I deal with it fixing people's computers. And if you don't know, essentially, I'm just speaking a bunch of high-level crap to say your computer is now wanting a password to access itself, to descramble itself before you get to log into it with your password. And if it doesn't get to do that, things can be fussy. If you replace that motherboard, that TPM chip is gone, and it won't be able to, the TPM it's trying to reference, it won't have its information stored in the new motherboard or whatever, how you have it set up. Anyway, it's a huge fucking pain in the ass. But I went in equipped knowing what that is. And so I was knowledgeable enough to where I didn't have to spend the 12 hours with Microsoft going through, and also MSI, talking with their third-party BIOS developer on how to go through and enable software or hardware TPM on the motherboard's BIOS settings in order for me to be able to get to the step that you're stuck on, which is that you need an internet connection to get in there too. Like, I thought it was just going to be... I thought it was asking for the internet connection just because, for the sake of convenience, like Windows 10 does, where it goes, hey, if you've got the internet, fuck all this product keep mess that we used to put you through. Just log in with your Microsoft account, and it's all cool, whatever. No, they just need it because fuck you. Windows 11 says every computer will always be connected online because we say so.
Yeah, and to bring this into like a video gamey kind of thing, right? I feel like when Microsoft unveiled the Xbox One, remember when the Xbox One, they were originally saying it was going to be always online. All of your games were going to check in online every 24 hours to make sure that you still own them and you can still play your games. And everyone was like, holy shit, what are you thinking, right? And at first, they stuck to their guns, remember? There was that gem of a quote we got that from what's his face that was like, well, if you don't have the internet, we have a platform for you. It's called Xbox 360. Right? And everyone was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? So then they backpedaled, right? Then they backpedaled.
Wait, was that sarcasm?
No, that was like
really? Holy shit.
Yeah, this was like the original unveiling of the Xbox One. And then, so of course, after nonstop, everybody hounding them of like all the press, everybody, of it being like, do not do this, right? Microsoft finally, they pulled back, and the Xbox One isn't like that now. But you can see it though in everything after Xbox One, in the series and in Windows 11 and stuff. Like, you can see like them still wanting this always online connected constant making sure that you are authorized to access the shit you bought
Is
kind
there
of
is there a
stuff.
benefit to it though?
The
Because I have one to play devil's advocate and to bring it away from gaming here for a second.
I'm gonna I'm gonna attempt to remember what their reasoning was. Oh yeah, I think the cool thing was like if you went. Never mind,
You
I
can
don't
go to your
remember.
friend's house. You don't have to
Yeah,
bring your memory card. You just log
yeah, it was
in.
something like that. Yeah,
Probably. I'm assuming.
was that your thing? Was that
No,
your?
no. Well,
Oh,
that's one thing. Honestly, it is a huge plus. I do, but it's not done right. And I guess I can't speak fully for the PlayStation 5, but whenever I go to a friend's house and log in on my Sony account, my PlayStation account, um, it doesn't ever seem to have the most up-to-date information on my profile. Like it downloads your profile information. It always seems to have like one avatar behind the last one that you have selected.
oh yeah.
And it doesn't remember your library fully either. It's weird.
Hmm.
That's just been my experience. Maybe I'm just an outlier, but no, the thing I was going to say positive about being always online is when I wake up in the morning, I have to go and print a document that I format myself every morning. And so I have to use a computer every morning. So I log in, and the first thing I see when I log in is a goddamn gorgeous like nature or whatever, just gorgeous photography on the login screen. I go, "Huh, never seen that before. What's that?" And I just hover my mouse over to the top right of the screen. It says, "Oh, this is this beautiful place that you thought was like Africa or something is actually just like outside of Boulder, Colorado, or some shit." Don't compare those two. I don't know about geography. I'm bad at that, but yeah, it's like I love that I can see that, and it got even better with Windows 11 when I started logging on the Stream PC, because it was like I like that feature. It's just a cool little injection into my Windows experience it's positive. I didn't expect it. But when to Windows 11, if you go to the start menu, you also get like news now. And I used to fucking hate that, and because it was always done poorly. It was done like all the news was all sponsored, bannered like ads pretty much, and not real news. And it was also always like just full of adware and malware and shit. But it's cool that there's like local things coming in on my start menu, and it's like not just tragic shit like American news tends to be. It's like actual like, hey, in your county it's gonna be 68 today. There's oh my god, there's like a one little panel that just like I think just puts photos up of like your photo album or some shit. There's lots of little things that would come in that would require an internet connection to get you the most up-to-date information. It's like an evolution of the classic experience of waking up and reading the newspaper with your coffee,
Yes. Well, hang on here though. So you are describing several perks to being online. And I agree. Those are great reasons to be online, but I don't agree that those are reasons to require that the user is online.
Or be always online.
Right. Like there's plenty of benefits to the internet. No one is saying that we need to just not be on the internet, right? It's the requirement where it starts to become a pain in the ass. So, for this day I was at my parents' house, ultimately what we came up with was, sorry you guys just spent, fucking like $1,200 or something on a new computer and a modem, and you can't use any of it, yet until Comcast is going to send a tech out in like 3 days or something to look at it. But then I realized like the next day, hang on, we could at least get to a desktop if we just tethered it to a phone, right? For an internet connection that way. Because the motherboard did have wireless, on it. It has a Wi-Fi chip. So I went back the next day, we put Wi-Fi on it. Boom, we got to a desktop by tethering to a mobile phone. Okay, cool. Now I can log into the router. So I logged into this new router modem, and I noticed that the MAC address that is on the label of the router that I give to Comcast is one thing, but the MAC address on the internet port that they're trying to connect to in the GUI is almost all zeros. It's like 0000, 0030, 0000, or something like that. And I'm like, that's not a normal looking MAC address.
Nope.
And it's also not what's on the sticker. But maybe I just don't, maybe this is normal and it's okay. I'm going to call Netgear, right? Because it's a Netgear modem. So I called Netgear. I'm on the phone with them for like 30 minutes because they really are not understanding the question that I'm asking. I just want to know, like, hey, the MAC that it's showing on the internet port is not the same as what's on the sticker, and it's a bunch of zeros. Is this okay? And they keep saying like, "Oh, I think you got to give Comcast the number that's on the sticker." And I'm like, "Yeah, I did that, but here's the thing." And they're like, "Oh, no, I think they might have typed it in wrong. You should tell them it again." And I'm like, "I'm not asking about what I told Comcast. I'm asking about what I'm seeing on the Netgear Genie here." And they're like, "Oh, yeah. The LAN port MAC, it's slightly different than the one on the sticker. That's normal." And I'm like, "I'm not asking about the LAN port. I'm asking about the internet port." And like, oh my God, it took like 30 minutes to just get them to understand what the question was of MAC of internet port, MAC on sticker, different. Is that okay? And eventually they're like, no, that's not okay. I understand the question now. Yes, that's weird. That's not okay. You should go exchange that modem. Okay, so I did. So I had to drive back to the store. Keep in mind the store's like 40 minutes away, so it's like over an hour round
I was
trip.
gonna ask how close you were to Micro Center.
Yeah, it's like 35, 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I go back to the store and I exchange this one for a different one. Same product, right? Same product, just a different box, right? Came home, hooked that one up, plugged that one in. It's the same exact thing. The internet port on this also has this weird MAC address that's not a thing. So I'm like, okay, there's no way that there's two defective ones
That
in a
factory
row.
fucked up the stickers, didn't they?
It's just gonna be fun. Nah, it's just fine. I think it's just fine, and there's nothing wrong with the modem. And it drives me nuts that I called Netgear's own technical support. I had to like make an account with them and register all the shit in order to start the warranty of the product, and that kind of stuff. All for them to just tell me the wrong information and make me take an hour drive out to the store, even though the thing isn't even broken. Oh my God. So that's where we're at with the story, by the way. I don't know. So anyway, I had a long couple days dealing with this, and now
how would
we're
you
just
rate
waiting.
Netgear's equipment and customer service so far? Because that's a big name.
Well, I've used Netgear stuff for a long time, and I've never had an issue with it. So like that part is good. But yeah, I found their technical support to be a little lacking so far.
I find that to be the case with a lot of companies.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I can bring it to some video game stuff. Not that I've been playing anything, but a question for you. So you're not Dash Retro from the infamous All the Way Down cast, infamous fighting game lover.
Yeah,
you
love fighting games.
You actually do have Smash experience, though.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Smash Bros. I'm not good at it, but I've played a little bit of it.
So it's fair to say that you're okay with like the control scheme generally.
I enjoy the controls of Smash Bros. Yes.
So
with a couple options that they give you.
So if you had to compare it to like say the actual like layout of a traditional fighting stick, arcade stick kind of thing, like think about Street Fighter where it's the 6-button layout with a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say Smash is more or less complicated?
Complicated? I think, complicated is a weird word. I think Smash Bros. Is very intuitive with its controls.
Okay, this is good. We're on the right track here. Keep going. What else? What would you describe Smash Bros? Would you describe them as simple?
Again, I think intuitive is the right word because there's a lot of complexity, but it's easy to intuit that complex to the complexity. You know what I mean?
So if a game like Street Fighter had that exactly that intuitive, uh, e- let's just use the word intuitive because it's the word you used. If
Okay.
Street Fighter could manage a control scheme like that, would you be interested in trying it? Slash, I guess more importantly, do you think it would make it more approachable for people to enjoy it?
Here's what I don't know because my issue with your traditional fighting game isn't necessarily the control layout, but rather just how the controls generally feel. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like for example, I just don't like the generally slow walking speed of the characters, and generally like kind of stiffness to everything. You know what I mean?
Oh man, we got to get you
Um,
playing some different fighting games. That's just like
Perhaps. I mean, I look at a fighting game and it looks like they're just like walking through waist deep molasses, to get
some
to
of them
each
are,
other
yeah.
and
Some
and
of
that
them are
kind of
definitely
stuff.
like that. Like so Street Fighter is kind of big on that where things are kind of Street Fighter's known for being like what's called neutral heavy, where the neutral is say if you look at the stream right now, you are over there, I am over here. The neutral is the space in between us, and how
Mhm,
we choose to occupy that space between us, risk reward, give or take. Um,
mhm,
so Street Fighter is known for having a lot of neutral play, where there's deliberate, slower action but the things that are happening quick, and you have to react to them quick.
mhm.
There's other games like there's like whole other subgenres of fighters, like anime fighters, like Guilty Gear is well known for being incredibly high mobility, where the characters move. The characters could like walk super slow, but they could have a dash that gets you across the screen instantly, or they have air dashes in Guilty Gear, so that adds a whole other dimension of crazy movement. And then, of course, I'm sure you've definitely had to have seen Marvel vs. Capcom, like
Uh,
Marvel
I
vs.
mean,
Capcom 2. Have you seen?
it's been like 20 years
Okay,
since I last saw it.
all right. Well, I guarantee you, if you watch Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom side by side, like same exact controls, completely
Mhm.
different speeds and style of games.
Sure.
And even in then, so you mentioned like some characters look like they're slow, and that's how a lot of games are. Some characters are actually super slow, while others are not. Because like with Street Fighter, I would say Street Fighter is one of the things I love the most about it is the variance in between the characters. Like each character is almost an extreme form of that archetype where like Guile is like the quintessential charge character. I mean, to an extent, it's because these characters invented those kind of styles. But Guile is like the quintessential charge. Ryu and Ken are the quintessential Shotos, and then the grappler Zangief. You know, they invented this so like one will have a speed, one will have a power advantage. It's
Mhm.
it's different between each, but yeah. So my question kind of was more based around the control scheme. So I love that you say it's not simple, it's not easy, but it's intuitive, and I
Mhm.
want to think that you say that because the buttons that you have are maybe limited's not the right word, but you have fewer buttons for sure than like a traditional fighting game. But I think you have a lot of motion that you
Yeah,
can
and
go
you
with
have a
them.
lot of
A lot
options.
of options to go with those buttons, and it's a lot more motion related. And the reason I bring this up is because this is something that's super controversial right now with Street Fighter 6. Apparently, Street Fighter 6 is way more finished than I thought it was. Like, there's already a playable demo with 4 characters. Like, I thought we were just going to be in the trailer hype making stage of the game, but no, we're there to demo stage, and the big thing that's catching a lot of controversy is the control schemes. So they've introduced what looks to me like Smash controls in that like um you have your traditional your traditional 6 button with a joystick layout, and then you have your levels of meter, and then your specials. Now the way the 6 button layout works is it's like the top row of 3, the bottom row of 3. It's punches up top, kicks on the bottom, and in ascending order of power / slower speed, generally slower speed, light, medium, heavy. And so if I wanted to do a certain attack, I could go if I want to do a fireball, I could do a light fireball, I could do a medium fireball, heavy, so on and so forth. But the way this is working, they're kind of like in this mode. I don't want to quote it exactly. I'm sure I'm going to mess it up to some degree, but it's like instead of having a light, medium, heavy, you just have a special button. So you just have a one button special that you just kind of have to input the thing with. So in this case, for a fireball, it's going to be down, quarter circle forward, and then special. So presumably, I'm assuming it's going to be like punch and a kick button. And then I guess, kind of how the GameCube controller worked, where you had A and B. So you got punch and kick, and then you got your 2 joysticks. Don't know how it's going to work. It's probably one joystick for this anyway. But it's super controversial because it's being called the simplification or whatever, and I think people are just upset at how it's going to be balanced too, because it's like, well, if they have just one solid thing and they can't choose between power, how are they going to balance that? Some people are speculating that maybe if you use this other layout, the one that you call intuitive, maybe it'll consume meter, whereas the other one wouldn't, or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of talk going on about it right now, but essentially all I'm trying to say is I think it's cool that they're experimenting and trying to do things that will get more people into fighting games, because I think a lot of fighting games are lacking in that aspect right now.
Yeah, it seems like a genre, sort of like from someone on the outside. It kind of seems like a genre where the games keep getting more complicated, and so it's becoming harder and harder for new people to get into, kind of, because like people are getting better at them, people are getting
Yeah.
more advanced, and it's like the meta of one game almost half carries into a new game.
So
And
much, yeah.
partly.
Well, with controls, honestly, almost fully, because ever since like the 6-button kind of layout, that's been, at least through Capcom, the industry standard for pretty much all of their games. And some of the games that aren't even fighting games will have that control layout. And the, like to the S.N.K. side, which has King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, all that cool stuff, Fatal Fury, that was a 4-button layout kind of game. And so they all have this same central layout of stick on the left, buttons on the right, 3 or 4, who cares? We'll figure it out however you want to port that to a console, have fun. And so that meta has stayed the same. Like, what I said earlier, down, quarter circle, forward, punch, that has been a Hadouken since Hadoukens were Hadoukens. So it's like, that's always going to be there. And so the people who have known that input and have used that exact input since 1991, 1989, who knows? Yeah, there's so much shit built on layer upon layer of fighting game added over time, but it's all been like added to that same base layer with that same control scheme. So new players getting into fighting games have a huge skill wall to go against when it comes to people that they're fighting with, because if the other person they're fighting hasn't also just begun with them, or isn't also just kind of at their same general skill level, they're going to get trashed, and it's going to hurt, and you won't necessarily know why unless you have someone better than you, or luckily a really nice friendly opponent, to tell you where you messed up, how you messed up, what you could have done, when, what options you had, when and where. There's all of that I think that makes it super fucking hard for new players to get the willpower to just not throw a controller down and never touch a fighting game again. So like, I don't know. It's cool to me. I think they're attracting more people this way, because Smash, when it comes to fighting games, there's fighting games and then there's Smash. So like, honestly, arguably, Smash is so big with the fighting game crowd that like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I have no idea what the demographics of fighting games are right now, but I would not be surprised if Smash players didn't make up at least like a third of fighting game players right now. So it's like, 2 huge audiences, why wouldn't Capcom try to bring them in? And I heard I heard, I think it was J.M. Croft on YouTube earlier today talking about this. How like people were upset about it, but like the naming he thought was a really good point too. So I like that they didn't call it simple, which is what they tried to do in an earlier series where, um, if you like, okay, so you know how when you start an arcade racing game, you're just like, I'm gonna have fun. I'm just gonna sit down. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna crash a car or whatever. And then you start. And then it goes, select your track. Okay, cool. Select your car. Cool. Select your transmission. And then you're like, oh, automatic, I guess. And then you kind of have that little feeling of like wimpiness, I guess, because someone sitting next to you, right next to you, can go, oh, you're a beginner, aren't you? I drive the manual mode without, my clutchless manual. So like there's that kind of like, I guess, level of shame that they cut out when they called it simple in a previous kind of game when they tried to use the same tactic to attract people to an easier kind of control layout. I think they're calling it modern, which is an interesting word.
That is weird too, to call it modern,
because
it implies that their old shit is outdated, sort of.
It's
a little.
Well, I mean, yes, but like I kind of took it as, yeah, I guess I took it that way, but I didn't take offense to it, because I'm just I just feel like it's going to attract more people. And as long as the other control scheme is in there, which I'm sure like 95% of people are going to play and 99.9% of people are going to end up with later on, I don't care as long as it's there. Like they're not going to kneecap themselves, like just destroying the formula that made them successful.
Yeah. The modern thing, it kind of reminds me of like the Nintendo Switch Pro controller or the Wii U Pro controller.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like the implication where it's like, all right, so we've got this new dumb shit controller, but if you're a pro, you want this other thing sold separately that's just normal.
Hang on. Okay, so I'm Nintendo right now, Dash. I'm selling you your console right now. You didn't want to spend the extra money on this pro controller. You have the dumb shit controller. What controller am I referring to off the top of your head?
Oh, the Nintendo or the Wii U gamepad.
The Wii U gamepad, really?
Yeah.
No.
The new dumb shit controller.
No, you know what I was gonna say? The fucking the completely non-functional Switch Joy-Con controller like slide together thing that allows you to kind of hold it.
Great, get out of here.
Fuck that thing.
Well, okay, the only issue with the slide the Joy-Cons on controller thing is there's not enough room for your fingers. Your fingers jam into the back.
Yeah,
of it,
it's terrible, dude. That thing's a piece of shit.
I think the Joy-Cons.
Okay, hang on. How could you do the Wii U gamepad like that? Come on.
The gamepad is this big, dumb, clunky thing that has to have its own AC adapter. It has its own AC adapter, this controller. And why? So it's got this shitty low resolution screen on it that I don't care about, that has a shitty feeling D-pad. Oh, and it vibrates too. It doesn't rumble. Whenever the thing rumbles and it's like wah, wah, in your hands, you can feel it.
It doesn't have rumble? I haven't played it enough. I'm going to be completely honest.
It has quote unquote rumble, but it's like a cell phone vibration. You know what I mean?
Which technically, do you know how they make that, right? You've taken apart a controller before.
Yeah, the spinny.
It's a little off-axis weight that's that's affixed on a central turn, like a crankshaft, and then the electric motor turns it, and like the vibration comes from the weight that's slinging back and forth. So my thing envisioning is like the weight on the vibrator motor is just super tiny. Like, but that makes no sense because hang on, okay. So I'm talking on my ass because I've spent all of maybe 2 hours with the Wii U gamepad playing Tropical Freeze. Awesome game. Love that Donkey Kong Country game. But I didn't really notice that the vibration was super bad. But I will say that I played it at the time that I wasn't really doing a whole lot of super like retro stuff at the time yet. And when I played my PS2 and had games, like I had a Summon and Final Fantasy, and the rumble comes through, I was like, whoa. This is like something beating in my hand compared to any haptic feedback that we have nowadays. I don't think the motors are really that big in anything anymore. Like for phones, it's obvious it wouldn't be, but like
No, I think you're absolutely right that the motors are a lot smaller now. And so you get the smaller motion creates more of a vibrate than a rumble, and it drives me nuts.
That's not a weakness, by the way. In fact, it's actually good to have both sets of motors in there. That way you can get the widest definition. So with the smaller motors, you get faster response time because the sine wave, the mechanical sine wave of a bigger motor will not, spin up and actually, it won't get the first oomph note like it needs to. If it, you'll have more definition with your vibration if you have both, is what I'm saying. Isn't that a weird thing to think about? I've never thought about that. Rumble as like an EQ spectrum,
Yeah, the resonance of it. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of rumble in general in anything.
This is so weird. This is so weird, dude. And okay. No, go ahead.
Oh, but I was just gonna say I don't like the vibration more. Like how a cell phone feels in your hand when it vibrates. I just hate the feeling of it.
I totally get that, and I think it all goes back to the motors, like I said, because I think I absolutely get when you said the cell phone, like the buzz, that what immediately clicked in my head is when your table was ready at a restaurant and they gave you those remote control little like buzzers, when those things went off, dude, you would like want them in your pocket to silence them because it like made it awkward around people waiting around you. Like, oh, how come he gets to go? I was here waiting first. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. And like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but like, holy shit, the restaurants I went to that had the little buzzer, like the little beeper they give you was just... It made sure you knew your table was ready. I guess that was its job. But that's not the job of a controller. The controller is actually supposed to give you a little bit of definition and feedback to that matches what you're seeing on screen. So I can't imagine hating feedback unless it's just bad feedback.
Yeah, I mean there are times where it's fine. I don't hate most. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. There are games where it's worked for me, but none of those have been modern, like super modern games where the rumble feel like PS4 is the last controller that I felt like the rumble felt okay on. It's mostly like Wii U, Switch, and
I thought you liked the PS5s.
Even the PS5's rumble. Nah, I don't really like how it feels very much.
What about the like the 3D clicking with the triggers?
That's decent. It can be, I think a couple games have used it kind of annoyingly so far. Like the Ratchet and Clank game just kind of annoyed me with the clickiness of the controller. Like in Ratchet and Clank, for example, when you want to boost in that game, like shoot forward really fast, you have to like charge up your boots, by hitting the trigger like 5 times, which is just kind of an annoying motion to have to do every time that you want to charge forward. This is the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on PS5. Yeah. You have to like hit the fucking trigger like 5 times to charge up your boots, which is annoying. And they put like the resistance on it, so it's like it's fighting me while I'm doing it, and you want to do it all the time. It's super annoying. So I on that game I had to turn off the adaptive triggers altogether because it was just driving me nuts.
Yeah,
but other games have done it very well though. Returnal did the adaptive triggers really, really well, where like the left trigger is to aim, and if you just hit it a little bit up to the resistance part, you aim. But if you click it all the way in to aim, that aims your like super shot, like your alternate fire on the gun, and that was an awesome use of it. So yeah, it depends on the game. But as far as a controller feature, pretty great since it can be used pretty well.
I think it's cool because doesn't it use the vibration function itself to function, like the resistance?
I don't know how it works.
I wanted to see it use like I don't know, anti-vib. I don't know how it works either, but pretty cool stuff. But I for some reason we have more agreement with you in the chat here about the Wii U being an awful game. Man, The Wii U compared to that shitty thing that you plug Joy-Cons into. I feel like the Wii U gamepad just offered so much more, because the thing that pisses me off the most about that little thing with the Switch Joy-Cons, it doesn't even charge the damn Joy-Cons, man. It doesn't even have a USB port on it to plug into it to charge the
That's
damn
a
Joy-Cons.
good point. They could have put a USB port on it that would charge the Joy-Cons. That's a very good point. I would have liked that.
They could have made it ergonomic like the Pro Controller. They chose not to. I get that you have to work with the limitation of the physical, like, you know, the Joy-Cons are flat. You have to work around that. But you could have had them slide in at an angle that was be more comfortable for the human grasp. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, there's not much room for your fingers on it either, for sure.
Yeah, like my actual the very first segment of my index finger gets caught on the underside of them, and it just shoves them down every time. Pro Controller, perfectly fine.
Yeah. So was that your video game topic? Was this Street Fighter thing?
Mostly just more on how controls have evolved in fighting games and whether or not you think they're more approachable.
Yeah, my least favorite thing about fighting game controls, and this is something that when I mentioned that I like Smash Bros. Controls with a couple options, is because this is something that by default Smash Bros. Does. I hate the feeling of pushing up to jump.
Oh.
It's just so bad. Hate it. But in Smash Bros. You can turn it off because there's a button to jump in that game. You know, and you kind of have to turn it off so that you only jump when you want to instead of when you're trying to do an up tilt or something like that.
I guess I get it because I know how into like platformers you are, but like that's such a weird thing to get hung up on.
Oh, it just feels so bad. It's like it's part of the stiff clunkiness of the controls that I'm kind of thinking of. Is that it's like of most fighting games from what I see, right? Where it's like I'm a big slow doofus on a flat plane, right? And there's no platforms or anything to jump on, but I can jump. But it's like this stick that I'm already hating how it feels to move the character because it's so slow.
Well,
then also I have to like jam the stick up to do this fucking awful stiff jump, that goes in this big dumb arc and try to dive kick the guy in the head and then he just uppercuts me.
Man, we gotta play fighting games sometimes. I feel like there's so much that I could just instantly prove you wrong on. Like okay, so like jump.
Well, this is a real thing though. Is the platform jump up feels bad, but the only other thing that I said there that was really like a real complaint is that like I enjoy also the fact that Smash Bros has platforms to stand on, and
I
so
fucking hate the fact that there's platforms
really
to stand on.
See,
platforming is my worst enemy, dude. Okay, nobody will kill me like gravity kills me in Smash Bros. Holy shit, dude! The platforming in Smash Bros. The only way I can have fun in Smash Bros. Like in a competitive way is that I don't get in my own way, which means I have to go to one of those stages that like has like if it has any platforms, it's 2 small ones and then like a really long bottom floor so I don't fall.
Yeah, I mean, so Smash Bros has bullshit stages in it that are stupid. Don't get me wrong, but like when that's why Ultimate has the option to just be in the aesthetic of any stage, but it will be just the standard battlefield layout instead, where it's a flat ground, and then it's got 3 platforms, right? And then sides. Or you can do any stage in the like Omega variant, which is where they're shaped like Final Destination, which is just a flat ground and no platforms,
that's what it was. Final Destination. That one started in Brawl, I want to say, because that's what I remember.
It was in Melee.
Was it Melee? Okay.
On GameCube, yeah. I don't know much about the N64 one, but yeah, I know for sure it was in Melee. But
And
yeah,
yeah.
anyway, the new one lets you like be on that stage with any aesthetic if you want, because for sure, when people play competitively, they don't want the wacky, this is a Mario Bros stage and it's auto scrolling the whole time, like people don't actually like that in a competitive setting.
Which is why I'm kind of confused at why you dislike the. Okay, so like there's no actual force other than your own intuition and will driving you to move laterally. So there's not like a continuous scroll to where jump has to be this like an actual deliberate action such that it needs its own button, it's one of it's one of the formula of inputs that you have to put in to do certain things. Because some things take complex inputs. Jump is rarely a complex input for anything other than just things that have the precondition of you being in the air for them to actually execute. You kind of just jump when you think the time is right to jump. As best as I can really explain it. I mean, like using up to jump feels like it would feel weird to me in this context if we were playing in like a top-down game. Like say if I was playing Shock Troopers. I don't know if you know what that game is, but it's like essentially like a top-down Contra, or Contra's a side scroller. Basically that, but it's like you have the arcade. It's like tank controls, except you're playing a person without being. Okay, when I say tank controls, I mean actual games that have a tank that you control with a joystick. In arcade terminology, it's not actual like tank controls on PS1.
Okay.
So like, you move away and then you like look away, and it's like two different things. You'd have to have two different sets of sticks, essentially.
You're gonna have to step back here and ditch this whole tank thing. and
Sorry.
So you like
It would be weird to
it would be
use up
weird
to
to
jump if
Okay,
we
yeah.
were up at a top-down perspective. Is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
sure, yeah.
But we're
that would
not.
be-
We're at
that
like
would
a
be
side
weird.
scroller perspective,
Uh-huh.
kinda. So not side scroller, but like a side perspective. So it's not. It's so weird to me that that's offensive to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to use that to control my character, and then if I want to jump, that's like an action, So like I want a button on my right hand to do it. Left hand is like directional influence, right? With walking, right? And then right hand is like actions,
Yeah, it's just another dimension of motion that you're delegating to your left hand.
Yeah, but if you just the idea that if you just tap up, your character performs an action that now like sends you into the air for the next amount of time. You know what I mean?
For
That's
sure.
an action.
For sure, and it gets super frustrating for people who aren't used to fighting game controls, because for me, I still struggle with this. Where if I'm trying to do something to quarter circle forward, I'll just go a little bit too far with the stick, and it registers an up input, and I'll jump. And it's like, great, that jump just got me fucking killed, because now I'm up in the air.
See, now you're understanding. Yeah, fuck that. That sounds terrible.
Well, it is terrible, but the solution is don't do that.
Right.
You got to get your stick discipline.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you think about it, you can have it as a deliberate button, too. Because, have I told you about what a hitbox is before?
I know.
You know what a hitbox is.
Yeah.
You've wired controllers this way, so you know what I'm talking about. You can just have up as a button with a D-pad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but then I gotta press it with my left hand. Like, even if we're talking about like if I'm just playing like Hollow Knight or The End Is Nigh or something on a keyboard, right? And I'm having to jump with my left hand with the up key off or with W. Fuck that.
I'm trying to think of some games like that I know of off the top of my head that you use up to jump in, and I can't think of any, and I'm sure that if I could, they wouldn't be good games. So I get your point. It's just, it's such a weird thing because the genre is so different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be as if I got pissed off at. It would be as if I got pissed off at Tetris for not having tank controls with the camera. You know? It doesn't make sense to get mad at it that way, because why would you use it that way? I guess is all I'm thinking of. Anyway, Yeah. Anyway, I gameplay wise, I'm excited. News wise, I'm behind because there's been all these events lately with the. I actually haven't even watched the State of Play, but there's been an Xbox event and there's been a State of Play. Um, I think the only news I got was the Capcom reveal of Street Fighter 6, which was fantastic. Holy shit. Street Fighter being in the new RE engine is cool, I think. Hopefully that'll work well. But the actual look of the game is what blew me away. Like, I was not expecting the game, like all the character models look so goddamn realistic. Like, when you look at Street Fighter 4 and then you look at Street Fighter 5, you go, "Oh, holy shit, Street Fighter 5 looks amazing." And now you look at Street Fighter 5 compared to Street Fighter 6 and it's like, "Whoa." Now that looks like Street Fighter 4. Like, that is a generational leap that I'm not used to seeing within the past like 10 years in gaming. Because I said this before, but like, I didn't buy the PlayStation 3 because I was almost boycotting it because I felt like it was too close to the PS2's capabilities. And then I kind of almost felt that way about the PS4 until the PS4 Pro came out. Then I was like, okay, I can do 60 hertz now. It's fine. But now it's like, dude, Street Fighter 5 is not that. Well, it's not that young. I think it was like 2014. So, god damn it, I'm old. It's 2022 now. But like, you get what I mean. The generational leap is getting quicker, where it used to be really slow. I feel like RTX is like a new technology that's going to improve all this too.
I think we've talked about Street Fighter V's look a little bit before, where I don't know what Street Fighter V looks like now, but I remember when they first revealed it, I thought it looked like Street Fighter 4, except fucking shitty.
Yeah, I think you told me that, yeah.
Yeah, because it was like it looked like Street Fighter 4, except all of the characters had way more exaggerated like contrast on them, sort of, where it was like they had ridiculously bulgy muscles,
Yeah.
except now their muscles were also airbrushed to be like extra accentuated, you know?
See,
And I was like, why does this look like shit? But then I think you told me that they improved it later.
Well, they did improve it a lot later with different character models. Like, Ken is still a disaster compared to other characters that came out much later. However, that is still a really good description of what the game actually looks like, because I want to say they're both Unreal games, so same engine, but the actual look of the game I love, because I think they kind of just perfected what they were trying to go with 4. It gave it more tonal definition, like what you're talking about. But the reason I think it looks so good is because I really, to a certain extent, I like how Mortal Kombat has evolved and how it's kind of got a realistic look to it. But Mortal Kombat kind of was always known for its photorealism of like inserting character sprites of actual photos of people doing shit. It's kind of always been that way, so it's different. But with Street Fighter, it really had to struggle, like a lot of other fighting games did, to make that transition, graphically speaking, from the arcade, bright colors, high contrast, insane, crazy looks of what a CRT could do in 2D graphic space versus what a 3D, 3D generated image can be. And it's like, Street Fighter 4 looks so fucking rough. It looks like clay in motion with basic dynamic lighting. With Street Fighter 5, you get actual, like, pretty well-made character models, in my opinion, and some of the faces are even pretty damn good, too. But you get them in a way that you go, oh, that's clearly not a human being I'm looking at, even though it's completely human shape. You go, oh, that's literally just like... I guess it's the same feeling I get when I played The Simpsons Hit and Run on PS2. When you see the Bart Simpson in 3D for the first time, it's like, whoa, this is not a cartoon. What the fuck am I looking at? I guess I got that feeling, but in a good way with Street Fighter V, because it's like, hey, this is how I would imagine these things look in a 3D space with all their natural color being unnatural as fuck to us comparatively to real life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
But Street Fighter 6 now, you're saying.
But Street Fighter
looks
6,
real good.
oh man, so like Street Fighter 6 is kind of going the route of realism when it comes to lighting. So the lighting of it, like a great picture of this is like, look up any of the pictures of Ryu. You'll see like the light play off of his skin where he's just like covered in sweat. You know, you can see that like definition of light bouncing off of everything. It looks the faces look like supernatural, comparatively to like, you know, what they did like in Street Fighter 4 and 5. Guile has eyebrows now. They're making him a little bit more realistic. Like, Guile is the best example of the characters they've revealed so far that kind of give me the Mortal Kombat feel, because he's the more human kind of muscle. Like, if there was any character in Street Fighter that's going to be in Mortal Kombat, it's going to be Guile, in my opinion. But he kind of looks like if they took a Mortal Kombat character and just gave him crazy hair gel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to looking like he was just transplanted out of an arcade PCB.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feel I get, and it's like the way that they're melding that kind of lighting and a little bit of like modeling the characters mixed with this crazy awesome looking like explosive color ink paint effect that they've kind of taken a little bit of the inspiration from Street Fighter 5. Love that, because it's like with 2D sprites in fighting games, you got all these cool explosions and all these cool things that, you know, you could do a lot with pixel art, you know, I would say relatively, to make things look comic-y and flashy. But in a 3D space, it's a lot more awkward. So like they have this system of like think of playing Splatoon, except when you throw paint, it's actually when your punches land an impact.
Right. Yeah.
It's really cool, and like you see the punches land, but it's almost like the paint, the color, the particle effects are almost like wind passing by your fist, except they're going like in a water liquid pattern. It's really cool to see. It's it's something that like I don't know. It's just really cool. There's few things that made the transition from 3D or from 2D to 3D when it comes to fighting games go well, and it's cool to see other things like Samurai Showdown. They managed to preserve like the cell shading comic book look of that series so well into 3D. But like if you look at the game they made right before that, King of Fighters 14, it's just like 3D awkward ass models. Like this is the same. This is like the other game to. This is the B side of Street Fighter 4. You know what I mean? That same era, that same kind of vein of game. Just nasty 3D. This is like, you know, hey, we kind of modeled these clothes that this character wears and threw them on a 3D model in this program, and now it's just this awkward 3D guy that just looks like he's like cosplaying as Rock Howard. You know what I mean? It's a totally different like fucking phase that I'm glad we're done with, because fuck that. It was the most hideous time in fighting games. The early 3D is not too bad because they kind of went crazy with the PS1 and Dreamcast area, but like when they tried to make things real using cartoon characters, I mean that's just the formula for disaster. Right.
I hear you. Well, all right. Street Fighter 6.
Thanks for letting me rant.
Good. Yeah, it's good to hear like a bunch of positivity about the new thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. And it's good, especially because Street Fighter 5 was a disaster at launch.
I remember that.
It wasn't complete. They had very few characters. The game felt terrible. I'm talking out my ass because I played late game when I got into it, but I'm speaking from experience from the people who told me about. Speaking of people who have experience, they just all say it was just dog shit. And I happen to love the game, so I always get surprised when I hear that. But I think they had to learn a lesson real bad about the launch of Street Fighter V. So
yeah, I remember one thing about it was that there was no single player campaign at launch.
You know,
you couldn't play like an arcade mode on the game.
Well, there was, but it's like it was very minimal, and they didn't really add too much to it.
Oh,
It,
okay.
it, it came later. It was not at launch. You're right. I think I'm mixing things up because there's like a half arcade thing where you just kind of like get comic book strips as your story mode progression. But my buddy Omega Weapon in the chat told me the other day that no, there's actually the fully fleshed out 3D arcade mode that I've just never done. Not arcade mode, but story mode that I've never done. I was like, oh, maybe I got to do that because I was like upset at the lack of that too because I came into fighting games from Mortal Kombat, and Mortal Kombat has been great with their single player story mode, especially when they went to 3D. Mortal Kombat was one of the games that just passed the test of moving to 3D with flying colors. But they had that conquest mode in on Mortal Kombat Deception, which was like the precursor to the Crypt, but is also a story mode. Loved that, and that seems like what they're doing with Street Fighter 6. We have a very little kind of brief opening cinematic intro in the teaser trailer that they released, where there's just like a dude of nondescript character, or like you would not be able to pinpoint it on the roster who he is. Looks like you're just kind of a nondescript dude, and he's running around with a top-down camera view through like a crowd of people. So it's presumed that there's going to be a weird kind of Mortal Kombat conquest mode in Street Fighter in this game, but it doesn't seem like you're actually playing anyone in particular, so how much story we'll get from it is yet to be seen. I don't know, but I'm excited. I'm excited for Street Fighter 6. I hope it's good.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Yeah. How about you?
I've been playing. I mentioned earlier, I thought you were going to talk about some other game today, an indie game, and that's why I mentioned that earlier.
I'm going to be honest, I can't even remember what game that was supposed to be.
Yeah, Inscription.
Oh, Inscription. Well, I haven't made any progress in that yet. I'm still where I was last time.
Well, I got an indie game to talk about that I recently played through, and it was Death's Door. Ooh. I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. I think everyone already played it, so
I haven't, but I heard really good things.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think it's a pretty short talk to talk about it. It's just great. I think a lot of people when it first came out, it was like, oh, it's like Bird Souls, I think is what people said.
Bird Souls.
So because you play as a little crow, but it's a top-down isometric view, right? You're a little crow, top-down isometric view, and you run around, right? In some nicely designed areas, very nice art style, very nice looking areas that you run around in. But you fight stuff, right? You got like a ya combo, like a 3-hit combo that you can do with your sword.
Are you Link basically?
A little bit, yeah. Little bit Link. It's more Zelda-y that as far as the look of it goes, because it's top down. You hit stuff with the sword, but you got a dodge roll. So I think that's where the souls.
That's where the souls came in. Yeah.
Is that you have a dodge roll, and if you die, you don't lose stuff, though. It doesn't have that aspect of Souls. Like, if you die, there's no consequence whatsoever, except that you just get sent back to the last checkpoint that you were in, or that you got to. But you keep, like, the experience that you gained and that kind of thing. And you can level up, right? So, the whole idea of the game really is that it's a pretty small, understated game, right? It doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's not trying to be a huge thing. It's pretty small, where like you start out in one area and you run around and you fight some dudes with a sword. Lots of different enemy types. The different enemy types have these big telegraphed attacks that they do. So the act of hitting a dude and then dodge rolling to avoid their attack, but then shooting another guy. You got a bow also, so like shooting another thing with the bow while you're like watching another thing for when it's gonna attack, so you can dodge that. Right, the combat is pretty it's easy to understand, especially like if you're just watching it.
It's all about maneuvering, right?
Yeah, and it's all very tight and it feels very good. You can hit 3 times with your sword, but then like dodge cancel out of the third hit, and like that kind of stuff to move around quickly. So
dodge cancel.
Like cancel the follow through of the third hit. with a
you're
dodge.
canceling the hit with the dodge. Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Yeah, so you can do stuff like that. So it just feels very snappy and good, right? But what you're doing, right, is like the idea is there's these 3 souls that you have to go get because you're a reaper, right? And you're here to collect the souls. And there's three of them that you need to go get, you know? And they're in these 3 different areas. And well, at first you can only access one of the areas because this one is blocked by this and that one is blocked by that. And guess what? You know, you get one of the abilities to get you in, you know, when you go into the first one, you play through the level, you fight the boss, you also at some point unlock an ability that gets you into the second area, right?
Can I ask for a spoiler real quick?
Mm-hmm.
You said you're a reaper and you play a crow. Are you supposed to be like some kind of actual grim reaper to everyone, but you're a crow in the afterlife or something?
You are you are an employee of like
Awesome.
a reaper business, you know?
Like Grim Fandango?
Perhaps. I've never played that actually.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, it's a point and click, but yeah, you play the Grim Reaper in an agency.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Similarly, right. So like, you know, your designated soul, you got to go get it, right, to turn it in. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's just one of those it's a fucking video game, you know, and it's just great. Like you fight dudes, there's puzzles, you know, you get to a dungeon and it's like, okay, here's the dungeon. You got to fight through this little area and then if you do this little puzzle, that opens up this thing and you get a key. Cool, the key opens this door, that gets you up here. Ooh, there's a ladder to kick down. That's a shortcut now, right? It's got all that kind of stuff going on where you're just playing a fucking video game and fighting dudes and collecting shit and it's just a really good time. And the controls are really good. Like I said, the boss battles are super fun. I should mention it's made by the same company or same team that made Titan Souls, which was a game that, if I remember right, that was a game that is only boss battles, but I've never played it. But the reason that I bring that up is that for people who did play it and they really liked the boss battles, this game's got really good boss battles too. You know, with its whole thing that it does. And yeah, you know, no really spoilers to say about it or anything, just that like, you know, there is a story that is interesting and you'll uncover it as you go. And it's interesting enough. I guess I do have a couple little criticisms of it, but for the most part, I mean, it's really just a super glowing praise. Like, it's only about $20, and
Ooh.
it's not super long, right? It took me about 10 hours to like mostly beat it, but then there were some secrets that were super fun to figure out. I wanted to find all the secrets, you know, so it took me about double the length of time that the main game did just to like figure out the secrets, right? And then I'm doing a second playthrough now because it's fun. I want to do like a challenge playthrough because there's an umbrella you can find that's like a joke weapon. It works just like the regular sword, but it does half the damage. And there's an achievement to play through the game with it. So I'm probably going to do that at some point.
I was gonna say, does the game have like a lot of different paths you can take, like for lots of different replay value?
I would think that you're pretty much gonna go on the same path each time. I would think, like it's definitely like it's a hub that has, you know, multiple ways to go, but there's a linear order that you do them in, you know, based on when you unlock abilities, which is from things, you know, the same every time. But there's secrets, you know, and the second time it's like, ooh, I remember this one, you know, and you go and grab that secret, you know, and each like little visual cue of like all of the different secrets that you remember, you know, you can grab them the second time and that's fun, you know. So yeah, I think it's one of those games that it has replay value not because not because like you can take a different path or something, but because the gameplay is really fun and the game is short, right? Which to me is like awesome. I'm gonna play it a second time, you know, because it was fun, so I want to play more of it, and it's short, so it's not an ordeal, you know.
Dude, this is the exact reason why I kind of get like annoyed with metal bands. Can we just talk about that for a second?
Okay.
A good fucking short song is an amazing song because it's good. I'm just going to listen to it again. A really good riff that's played for 4 unnecessary verses after just because there's more words in the lyrics drives me up the fucking wall. Like if I have to look at my device and go, did this skip? Is this the same song? Like I don't know, it just drives me up the wall, dude. I feel like most metal songs are between 4 to like 8 minutes long on average.
Well, that's pretty decent.
And I think most of them could be between 2 to 3.
Oh, no. See, I like long songs. One thing that drives me nuts, right?
Depends if they have an intro.
Okay, sure. One thing that drives me nuts, and I know that this isn't like a metal band, and so people who are, it's just the first band that comes to mind when I think about this, is Ghost, where their songs are too short because they don't take you on a journey, right? It's like, Ghost is like the number one band that I think of with this, but it happens to a lot of bands where it's like the song starts and I'm jamming and I'm grooving, right? And I'm like, all right, now let's fucking take this to the moon, right? Give me a solo, give me a fucking, give me a modulation, do something weird, right? But no, the song just ends and then the next one starts. And I'm like, oh, okay, now we're just starting a new song, I guess.
I think you may be the only person I've heard complain that the songs from Ghost are too short.
Yeah, they don't take you on a journey. Like the guitar work.
Which
in
album
that
are we
band,
talking about?
Not the new one, because I haven't heard that very much.
The only one I have experience with, and sorry for everyone listening who's not really much into this kind of stuff, but like, the only one I have experience is Opus Eponymous, which is...
Oh, okay.
That's their first album. I love that album, actually.
Yeah, that album's really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm more kind of thinking of Meliora, I think is the name of it. I feel like maybe that one is a little bit more what I'm talking about. But still, a lot of the time I just feel like they can rip on the guitar, right? And they can rip on the drums, but they never do. Like every once in a while, like you take a song like Cerise, for example. That was the song that they won a Grammy for. They won a Grammy for this song, but it's like the guitar solo is like half as long as it should be, and the keyboard solo is like half as long as it should be. It's especially when they do a solo, and it's like the solo gets started, and you're like, oh, here we go, and then the solo's over, and you're like, wait, hang on. They only played the start of a solo. Like, let's fucking jam for a minute,
And I totally get that side of the coin too, because that was my fucking frustration with The Last of Us. Like, what the fuck? Where was the rest of the game? I was so pissed at the end of that. That's why I never played the game again and never even cared to play the second one.
Oh, really? See, I think we've already talked about the ending of The Last of Us, I think.
But I'm looking at Death's Door, and the graphics look pretty cute. It looks like I'm looking at like a Western children's spooky kids book. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, Death's Door, right? It's got a great look to it. And it's just right. It's super good gameplay. Like it's just a fun game. Pretty short. It's got some great secrets as well. Good boss
the
battles.
graphics of the gameplay itself are like. Wow, yeah, it's like very simple colors. It's like almost like I hesitate to call it cell shaded, but that's what I want to call it. But the shading makes like another dimension of everything of it, because like it looks like from every screenshot I'm seeing in this so far, it's like in a forest where most of the light is blocked by the treetops that are not in the actual camera shot. You just get a top-down view of the forest floor, and only little bits here and there are little areas where sunlight's peeking through, and it adds a whole like layer of complexity to what would be a simple image, and that's pretty cool. I dig that art.
And there's a nice variety to the environments as well. There's also like an area where there's a lot of stone around.
This looks like the Great Wall. Yeah.
The
stone area.
Stone looks very nice, and then there's you got like a wintry kind of area, cavey kind of area. Yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah, lots of environments.
Is it 3D?
Yes, it is.
It's 3D.
Definitely.
Ooh, I gotta try this. It's cute.
Yeah, it's great. Super, super great game. And yeah, part of the thing that I say when I say like, hey, it's short, and I think that that's good, is that like it's got decent boss battles as well, and that's one thing that I really like
Mm.
about replaying a short, fun game is seeing all the bosses again. That's one of my favorite things. And so not having too many and not having there be too long between them and that kind of thing. Like all of that, it just makes for a great game.
Can
Yeah,
I
and I
can
think
I
it's only about $20.
can I ramble on about something that I have no experience playing? It's another indie game, but
Well, let me just say, Death's Door
sure.
is a strong recommendation from Dash, and there you go. That's my talk about it.
You said it was like $20, right?
I think so.
Not bad, not bad. Yeah. My buddy Lapis was talking about this game called Crystal Project, and I got to lurk him playing it on stream a little while ago, and it looks wild. Um, I think I have pretty much no knowledge about the game except for what I've seen. It looks like it's graphically kind of taking after, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles or Tactics. I mean, whatever. Tactics, I think, whatever. But it's it's got that kind of 3D kind of Octopath Traveler kind of world look based off of what it would be from 2D sprites.
Hmm.
However, the lighting is supernatural, like in in an otherwise unnatural environment. And from the video I saw, like it goes from like traditional JRPG, like turn-based combat, to like there's action in an area, and like there was like a maze running portion. Like I kid you not, you remember that game? Oh god damn it! Something Abyss.
Phantom Abyss?
Phantom Abyss. Thank you. Remember that maze running kind of game? So this had that action in it, but from like your little bird's eye Game Boy perspective, and you had to figure out the motion around A, where the map was bending, and B, the obstacles in that area, so you didn't get killed from the very quickly scrolling wall. Kind of like how Mario, if you don't stay still, Mario will die. It had that, but in an overworld sense, without dying, it was just a race. You'd get left behind. It was crazy. Like there was a whole bunch of different 3D perspective, like all retro style perspective looks and gameplays wrapped into one kind of game. And I'm going to keep a little bit of an eye on it because it looks interesting, and he seems to think it's a pretty damn good game. So I don't want to harp on it too much, but cool thing for you to look in. I thought you'd be interested in it. Pretty much all of our viewers as well, given I think I know our demographic.
Excellent. Oh yeah, there was one tiny thing about Death's Door that I wanted to give as like a slight criticism of it, right?
Yeah.
Which is that it's a bit of a spoiler as far as the story, the background story aspect of it goes. But it's not. I don't think it's particularly significant what we're gonna say here. But basically, as you're playing through, you do find like journals that give you a little bit of backstory to what's really going on, because you're working for like a corporation, right? And so of course the game's got this little angle about like what's really going on. And at first, what you find is there's something like, oh, there was an emergency from corporate or from the higher ups that said that we need to shut the door. Oh, but they open doors for you. That's how you go get your soul, right? Is that's like,
Okay.
okay, we'll open the door for you.
So
and
is
then
this
a door.
Monsters Inc. with death?
Oh yeah, kinda, yeah.
That's
Actually,
cute.
that's kind of a funny way to put it, but yeah.
Nice.
And wait, isn't there even a thing in Monsters Inc. where they're like wood chippering the doors to like get rid of them at some point? They like
Oh, I think I only saw the
yeah,
first movie.
and then like fucking Mike. Yeah, this is the first one. That's the only
Oh,
one
yeah.
I saw. But like
Mike
Mike
Wazowski?
Wazowski, doesn't he have to like piece together the girl's door so at the end so that they can still visit her or
Yeah.
something, right? Ooh, there's a little bit of that too. Anyway, point is, you find these journals that are like, oh, they canceled the contract on the spot and they closed the door. but wasn't the Reaper still in there? And you're
Oh,
like, oh, okay. But then every other journal, I felt like every journal that I found for the rest of the game just said that exact same thing in different words. It was like every new, instead of like piecing together this story bit by bit like I thought was gonna happen,
you just
instead it was like every single one of them was just like, "There, they closed the door, but wasn't there a guy still in there? That's weird," And it's like, oh yeah, there's that one again. You know what though? The little bit of like maybe what it was secretly about was like some kind of, I don't know if allegory is the right word. I'm not exactly sure what that word means, but
foreshadowing.
I think it might be proper in this term. No, not foreshadowing. I
Mm.
mean, it was like I think it was like a symbolism perhaps for like games getting canceled. I'm
Oh,
not sure if and like the developers just being left in the lurch essentially, because the
aw, I never knew
because the
that.
companies just cancel the game, and oh shit, well we were working on it and what are we gonna do? I kind of got that vibe from the game a little bit that like
Mm.
they might have been like the story might have secretly been a little bit about that. Um,
It-
but I don't know, that might have just been me looking too far into it.
I know why I had trouble remembering that the thing about Monsters Inc. about the wood chipper in the doors. If you want to feel old, the last time I saw it was in theaters, which was 21 years ago.
2001 that came out.
Yep.
I think we had a copy on VHS. I'm pretty sure we had a VHS copy of
Dude, that
Monsters
is the
Inc.
thing that fucks me up sometimes. Like, I will see, I'll be like out thrifting or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, Avatar, The Last Airbender or whatever. Yeah, what console is this for? I'm surely it's the middle of the PS3. No, this is a PS2 game.
Yeah.
That fucks me up when I see SpongeBob on VHS. I go, whoa, huh? It's not that old. It's not that old. It's not. It's totally that old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nah. Like I grew up with this. Like, right? No, because to me, growing up with VHS was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is early '90s. So, like,
Yeah.
that's the cartoons I also watched at the same time. So I was like, holy shit, SpongeBob existed before DVDs were widely adopted. God damn it. Makes you feel old.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I had like I've got a nephew who's 9 right now, and 8 or 9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's definitely a lot of that kind of thing
I,
where it's like even cartoons that were that I was too old for when they came out is like
mm-hmm.
shit that's from, that's
Yeah.
like way before his time, like he's never heard of it because it's old shit.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
it's a mind fuck. Like Harry Potter's another big one. I couldn't believe Lord of the Rings as well. Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings I'm finding on VHS pretty frequently in thrift shops, and it's like I didn't think this thing had VHS. But then I guess if you think about it, like it's incredibly rare nowadays. But I still go into people's houses who have CRTs in their houses, and they're not like enthusiast people about CRTs. Like this is their TV CRTs. Like
mhm.
those people still do exist, and so for those people, I totally understand still having VHS as your main backup copy for like your family memories and all that sort of thing. But like, is it the rate at which technology is accelerating? Or has it really just been way too fucking long that like the rural areas have been so out of touch with where tech is right now? Because like, yeah, some people I talk to when I work with, it's like I have internet at my house that most like parts of the country would consider terrible, but like you have people begging for it in your county, begging for a tenth of what I have. So it's like I don't know if the shit's just getting amazing really fast or if I'm just getting old.
Yeah, I think there's a big part of it is just that there's a lot of people where it's just not a part of their life. Like I mentioned that my parents, they don't have internet right now, and Comcast can't get a tech out there until Wednesday, and their internet has been out since Saturday, right? Which to
Do they live in a rural area or a suburban?
Yeah, and it's a relatively kind of country area.
Gotcha.
But like even though they use the internet quite a bit, like I think that they use the internet every day, just to like watch YouTube and stuff. But if they don't have it for a week, they're just like, all right, like
Yeah.
it's just doesn't.
Well, they probably have cable, and they may even still get a newspaper. So they've all like for people who are just like over 30, I would say over 40 at this point. I feel like the internet is just like a third wheel at some point for some people.
Mhm.
Like it's like what do we need it for? It's just another form of entertainment. I don't really care about it. I have cable.
Yeah. They did. I did. They did get off cable recently. My parents.
Nice.
They've moved on to the internet at least as much or enough for that where they're just on, have a couple streaming services and watch YouTube and don't really want to have to sit down and because my dad is very much like, oh, it's just commercials anyway, which is totally true. But it was nice to hear him say it, right? Because I think for a long time he was the one that wanted there to still be cable because he liked the simplicity of just sit down, turn
it on.
sit down and turn it on and
Yeah.
flip through some channels,
And dude,
and
even that got worse. Like with the transition to HD TV and just digital analog TVs in general, like especially in the early 2000s, like the universal smart remotes and honestly, some cable boxes are still like this. You could just push your manufacturer's, TV's remote turns on instantly. All these universal remotes, dude, you could hit menu and it'll be like a minute until like the fucking shit happens on the screen. It's like, how do people live with, like, not only is this a worse mode of communication compared to what we have in like entertainment, but it's worse than how it used to be. Like it used to be super convenient. You turned it on because everything was analog. When you press the power switch, it's on. When you change the channel, it's there. Like it's you tune it. You don't have to. There's no TV guide channel, so
this is kind of a big topic, but there's this phenomenon where computers keep getting faster and doing more and more complex things, but it creates a user experience that feels slower. As in, like, you think about, I think it was Jonathan Blow kind of put it in this particular way, which was that, like, using a computer way back, a lot of people my age or your age, our first experience using computers was to find something in a library, and you would go to the library and type in the name of the book you want and hit like F2 or something. Instant results, right? Because of the lookup that it's doing, and it's doing hardly anything. Nowadays, it's like I'm going to go on my phone and try to look up Google Maps, like something on Google Maps. The thing that Google Maps is doing is fucking incredible compared to what the library computer was doing, right? But the fact that it's like doing all these lookups, every single button that I push just creates this like really slow, shitty feeling keyboard and shitty, like slow, bad frame rate shit happening on the phone. That's just like this. It feels like it's barely working.
And your phone just happened to have been sitting on like your dashboard in the car heating the fuck up, and it's 2 seconds from turning off from overheating. And now your frame rate is 4 frames a second, and it takes 5 minutes for your mail to load. Yeah, it's
even without like me doing something bad to my phone, I just mean like it's this weird phenomenon, right? Where it's like the shit it's doing now, it's doing a lot of shit, and it's incredible what it's doing, right? But the actual experience that I'm getting is that it's slow and sucks compared to, a simpler thing.
I just wanted my phone to just push the button and it dials. That's all I want. I don't. It was a RCR video quoting. I don't want to chip in my debit card. That's how they get you. Those kinds of people. Yeah, but to a certain extent, they're right because things worked right then. And back then, half the time, maybe like 40% of the time, the cure was to just hit it. if something was wrong.
Man, I remember the first time I tried to fast forward or rewind a DVD, and it was so weird the way that it was like frame, 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 of the going through instead of the VCR, like you actually see the tape winding,
Yeah.
and things are actually moving quickly.
Even
And
weirder, the menu. Did the menu weird you out? Like
yeah,
DVD menus?
yeah, and just like what we're talking about, especially with how slow it was,
Yep.
It's like a tape, you put in the tape and you hit play, boom, there it is. Oh, I need to rewind it a second, whoop, and it's going. The DVD is doing something way more fancy and way more
Exactly.
incredible, and the picture's better, but it feels like shit.
Because what was the technology before the compact disc / DVD? It was the diskette, the 3 1/4-inch floppy. So you got your new shiny laser red fucking disc that has, what's it, like 600 times the capacity, but it still has no actual like local, PCB. It doesn't have a memory. It doesn't have caching. So you're literally limited by the bandwidth of the read speed to go from chapter to chapter. And it was the weirdest thing because the way DVD menus, I guess, worked, they had to. I think they were always interlaced, and you could tell because when you would move from selection to selection, you'd hear that like the little jitteriness of the disc reading really quick, and then like 2 seconds later, your selection would move after you've clicked, so it's slower. Yeah. But you'd have to just like deal with it. Like if you went all the way to the bottom and it would reset to the top, and you went, no, I went too far, and you go down 2, and it says, oh, down 2, but it registered those 3 other inputs first, so up, down 2, and then like, okay, so you're just sitting there in a loop of disc scratching noises, getting nothing fucking done.
Yeah, I think the interlace thing, I never thought about that before, but yeah, I think you can kind of see it now too, where like it stops when it stops drawing the interlaced field. Yeah, because it's like you only got one of the fields for that frame, because it stopped giving them to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. That's probably exactly why it's happening, because it literally froze on the frame of the optical drive of the read. It doesn't give you a black screen when it hits the hard off of data. It gives you the last frame.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Analog TV is fascinating, man.
Yeah. But all right. Yeah. All right. Well, I said my piece. I think it's been about 2 hours. Anything else from you for this episode?
I don't think so. I gotta explore some games, but all I want to do is just get better at the games I am playing.
Hey, that's just fine too. I'm still playing Final Fantasy VII mostly. I'm learning the 100% category. So
hang on. Let me guess. 638. What's it at?
My PB, 643.
I wasn't far. Damn, dude. I was actually like really underguessing too. Like, holy shit, you're doing good.
Oh yeah. So on speedrun.com, I'm listed as number 3 right now.
That's insane, though.
Which puts me at number 4 actually, though, because there's one guy, Luzbel, who doesn't deal with speedrun.com, and he is like the actual number 2.
Well, okay.
So I'm number 4.
Well, I was gonna ask, if you were actually number 3, how would that make you feel?
Oh, great. I mean, number 4 is great. I feel great.
Oh, well, cool. I mean, like, okay, I guess. If does the website show you still if you're number 4? Like,
oh yeah.
Okay, so it's not like a top 3 kind of display thing.
Correct.
I've heard once. I don't remember where it was. I think it was like a Joe Rogan clip or something. Someone was talking about how apparently, people who get bronze medals in the Olympics are generally much happier than the people who get silver medals.
Oh, I can see that. Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, this is like an old Seinfeld bit.
Is it?
Yeah. Where it's like 3 is like, at least I got something.
At least I got something. I'm in the best. Yeah.
Right. But number 2 is like, congratulations, you almost
won. So you
of
basically
all the
lost.
Losers,
you're the
best.
First and the best. Yeah. You're the best loser. Yeah, that's right. I remember that quote now. God, I love Seinfeld. Anyway. Yeah, I'm all tapped out tonight too.
All right, sounds good.
Well, it's been good chilling with y'all. We appreciate y'all tuning in to this episode, that being episode 36 of All the Way Down. I am not Dash. I am Invictus Nox.
That's right. I'm Dash.
That's Dash. He's not Invictus Nox. You can find us on Twitch and Twitter and some other places on the internet. See y'all dudes later. Bye, guys.
See ya.